Shortly after the MPAA came out with the R rating, they also issued an X rating for films they thought were too explicit. This was eventually changed to an NC-17 rating due to X being associated with porn. With an R rating, you could go see the movie no matter how old you are, as long as you're there with a parent. But with an X rating, you need to be 17 years old, or older, to get in, no matter what. Many of the more known classics from the 70s were rated X, like A Clockwork Orange, and I believe even Taxi Driver was considered for an X rating at one point due to the ultra-violent ending. Now that you know a bit of the background of the MPAA, let's get started on the two main issues of censorship. Let's start with violence. The squeamish might want to cover their eyes. Director Peter Jackson is mostly known for his work on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. They were each nominated for Best Picture of the Year at the Oscars, and the final film of the trilogy went on to win 11 awards at the Oscars. You'd have to be quite the professional and sophisticated type to make something like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, right? Well, let's have a look at what Peter Jackson did before the Lord of the Rings. In 1992, Peter Jackson directed the most violent film ever made. It may not have been the most graphic or disturbing film of all time, most of the violence is played for laughs, but it used more fake blood than any other film ever made, even to this day. Both this film and The Passion of the Christ are probably the best examples I can come up with that prove that the MPAA will never rate a film NC-17 for violence alone. Some have come close, like the Saw movies, Irreversible, and a Serbian film, but they've never followed through. Would they ever follow through when it comes to language? The answer might surprise you.
Clerks, just because they serve you doesn't mean they like you.
In 1994, the cult classic Clerks was released by Kevin Smith, and just like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, it was a bit shocking in its nature, but the difference between the two is how people reacted. Clerks was an underground hit when it first came out, despite what the MPAA gave it. It was the first and only film to ever get an NC-17 rating for language alone, which, in turn, stirred up some controversy over whether the MPAA was getting too strict. After thousands of complaints came pouring in, they eventually lowered it down to an R, but with the ratings aside, let's take a look at what truly broke the ground as far as language in the media is concerned. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf came out in the mid-60s when people were still fairly uptight about content in the media. Upon its release, it was banned here in the province of Nova Scotia for the reason of it being obscene and blasphemous. Isn't that weird?
Little George, you can't afford to waste good liquor. Not on your salary, not on an associate professor's salary.
It's fairly tame by today's standards, but you have to remember back then there was no rating system. Anybody could just go to a movie and see it when it came out. Again, this is at a time when people were still a bit iffy on whether their children should see Elvis shaking his legs on stage, so you can imagine how they would react when they saw a drunken Liz Taylor spouting things like this.
Some goddamn fix me a drink. So anyway, I married the SOB.
Several churches were getting involved over the movie taking their Lord's name in vain. Parents were offended if their kids watched it. It was everywhere. Stay tuned for part 3 of 3, coming up in a couple of days.